Questions on billionaires and Christianity. Quoting from the Bible, Matthew 6:24 says, "No one can serve two masters. Either you hate the one and love the other, or you'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." So Matthew says, some argue that extreme concentrated wealth, that of billionaires, is antithetical to Jesus' gospel. Others see no conflict, suggesting that when used for good, the ends justify the means. How does your faith and community inform your beliefs on this subject? How do you understand Jesus' words here in the modern context of extreme wealth inequality, and what actions might they point to? Damn, Matt. Deep question. I love talking about faith in modern society, so I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, I think there was another Bible quote about, it's easier for something very difficult to happen than for a rich man to get to heaven.
Camel go through the eye of the needle, and a rich man to go to heaven.
Yeah, and so that made me think. I was like, wow, it makes it sound like it's very hard to be moral and
rich.
Yeah.
And more powerful. Yeah.
And then I thought about it because I do know some rich people. And I will say, for a lot of my upbringing, I had a chip on my shoulder against rich people because I was the child of immigrants, and we were very scrappy. And then I went to a boarding school where some of the families were rich, and I was like, oh, look at these fucking toolboxes, and I felt. And then I went to Brown, which had a lot of rich people.
So did Exeter, right? Like you probably surrounded by this
Exeter.
shit.
Pretty much, I went to schools that were filled with rich people, and then I had a massive chip on my shoulder, being like, I'm as good as any of these people. Like, I'm smarter than, frankly, I was smarter than most of them.
Yeah,
so it was like
annoyingly so.
And so I was like, oh, I'm going to prove myself. And then when I left the law firm, I was like, I'm going to prove myself as an entrepreneur. So the flops hurt, because I was an unsuccessful entrepreneur
and you're seeing the rich kids
for a stretch of years.
Money, it is.
Yeah. And so, I was like very fired up. And that righteousness fueled me through starting Venture for America and running for president. And like, I was like very, very fired up around some of like the inequities. And so I instinctively agree with the thrust of these Bible quotes. I think that money in a person's hands gets much, much less useful after a certain dollar. I think there are even studies to this effect. And this is one reason why I'm naturally like, hey, spread the good, spread the wealth, spread the love. I wrote, this is fast solid, but I wrote a newsletter about tipping really well the other day, which I try to do, and it's actually
you tip really well.
Oh, thanks.
It makes me.
But
I'm like, holy shit.
But the tipping well thing is like, is not really getting to the vein of this question, because like if I was a billionaire, I could tip well, but it would be like totally immaterial to like my actual money.
Yeah.
And so then the question, which I'm not a billionaire, obviously everyone knows that, but like
your finances are public, brother.
So in many ways, like what the Bible quote suggests is like, if you had $1 billion and you were godly, you would look up and say, well, shoot, like let me give most of this away, and then I'll have less than $1 billion, and then the money will go around in various ways. Now that's not common practice among billionaires. If it were, I think the world would be a better place. I do,
most likely.
Yeah. In the world we live in, I've seen some billionaires use their wealth in directions that I kind of enjoy and like.
Yeah.
And then I've seen probably many more where I was like, I was not that enamored with it. I don't know if that answers the question, but I do think there is a tug of war in the spirit about money and material possessions and not making too much of them.
Yeah.
I think that, if you could take away a lot of my stuff, and I honestly wouldn't care. No, but I will say that changes somewhat in the family context. Yeah. Like I used to joke about myself as an Asian cockroach because I just didn't care. But then when you have a wife and kids, then all of a sudden it's cockroach. Like, I'd be like, I'll survive anything. Doesn't matter. Just get me some protein powder. I'll but then you have families with needs and the rest of it.
And you're human, you start to like certain things in the lifestyle and then things like that, like.
I'm still wired such that like you know, I don't know.
You're pretty easy, right? Yeah,
or just like if I do find myself indulging and getting soft in my own mind, it's like, oh man, I'm getting soft. It's like
you're weird. Like you're like sort of irrationally generous at times, and it's wonderful. So people like being around you. I'll say, so I have a lot of experience in dealing with spending time around the wealthy. Right, I did this for years on Wall Street, and I knew this as a kid, and I've lived it now. I think money it's not particularly good or bad. It's a magnifier. So it's because you have the ability to do more when you have more money. So if you're generous, if you're a generous person, you have a lot of money, you're going to be more generous. That's what's going to happen. But if you're a prick, you're going to be more of a prick when you have more money. And so what happens is like billionaires are actually human beings. And so their human traits, good and bad, get magnified. So it's even the good ones, like their flaws are sort of magnified in this lane too. So you see bad things they're doing as well, and you see good things. I think, and in my experience, I met a ton of wonderful, very rich people and a ton of shitty, very rich people. And sometimes they really earned their money. Sometimes they fell into it. Sometimes it's a hybrid. Most times it's a hybrid. I think, I grew up, I played a lot of hockey growing up, and it's a version of a rich kid sport. It's not tennis or golf, but it's right there. And I remember the kids had all these like sick Bauer hockey helmets that like made your head look cool. And I had the Play It Again Sports version of like this. I remember it was a CCM, like literally a fucking bucket on your head, and I looked like an idiot, and I hated it. Right. But that's what you go forward. And like, to your point on like chip on your shoulder, sure. Right. Does that make the rich kid like evil or bad? No, it could. Because they have the,
I think money's a magnifier, but I also think it does kind of prey on your weaknesses, whatever they are.
That's the point. It'll magnify that weakness, right? Yeah. And it's like, if you got a vice and you're really rich, like that vice is going to get worse, You may share it with others. You may spread that vice. When you're rich, people follow you. People see you. So your example, your flaws are on display for others. That's worse,
Yeah. But thank you for the question, though. I mean, it's something that I struggle with both personally and also when like I'm around, a really rich person. Typically when I'm around a really rich person, I will confess to you all, I'm like trying to get
their money
from them to do something.
It's true, man.
Yeah. And so then it's like, donate to Humanity Forward, donate to Forward, donate to Faribault, donate to something. Yeah. And so as a consequence, you can imagine I like tend to be pretty nice to them because it's like, like, how else am I going to get them to take some of their money and donate it to something? So I'm around people a lot, and I have goodwill towards them.
Yeah. Well, you make a good point though. Like if you're that rich, it's very difficult to hide it. So most people know. And what happens then? They ask you for money. So these people are getting asked for money all the time.
Yeah.
And that actually starts to warp someone in a way. So that's actually your point. It's like the money itself will. More money, more problems. Like it actually does start to cause and skew you a certain way.
That's why they should give it all away. Hey YouTube, thanks for watching. Please do hit like and subscribe and hit that bell if you want to be notified every time a new episode drops. Thank you.